Okay, so today we're going to do something a little bit different. We're basically done with chapter 2. So what I'm going to ask you to do is to take notes on a sheet of binder paper and attach it in the chapter 2 section of your notable. Now, what are we going to be taking notes on? We are going to be taking notes on integers and how we apply them using order of operations. So we're applying all of the knowledge we have about integers and all of the knowledge we have about the order of operations. So let's review what the order of operations are. We have our grouping symbols, which are either parentheses or brackets. We do our exponents, which are usually squared or cubed if we have an x or a y. Then we do multiplication and or division. We move from left to right when those are happening at the same time. Then we have addition and or subtraction, and again we move from left to right when those are happening at the same time. So I think I have about 12 examples. I'm going to have you write those down on your binder paper and do them along with me or try them yourself. So first thing, we're using order of operations and rules about integers to simplify all of the following expressions. So first we're going to use distributive property. Now remember, when we use distributive property, we're distributing whatever is on the outside to all the numbers on the inside. So in this case it's a -2. We distribute the -2 to the 9 and to the +7. So we get -2 times 9 plus -2, and in this case we're going to put this in parentheses, times 7. Now we do our order of operations. What's -2 times 9? It's -18 plus -2 times 7. That's going to give us a -14. Now when we're adding two negative numbers, all we have to do is add these together, which is going to give us 32. Is that going to give us 32? Yeah, 32, and we put a negative in front of it because it's two negative numbers. So this final answer is -32. So notice over here we had a positive in our parentheses, and now we have a negative or a subtraction sign in our parentheses. So this one's going to be a little bit different. I'm going to change colors. So we have our -7 out here. We have a -3 on the inside, and then we have a -4. So again, we want to distribute that -7 to 3 and 4, and we get. So when we do that, we get -7 times -3 minus, because now it's a minus sign, -7 times -4. So we got -7 times, 4. So our answer is going to change a little bit. Just because there's this minus sign here, you still have to write -7. So this is going to give us, remember, a -7 times a -3 is going to give us a +21, minus, what's -7 times 4? It's going to give us a -28. Now, we know what happens when there's a negative on the outside and a negative on the inside. This becomes 21 plus, and the opposite of -28 is a +28. So that's what this turns into. 21 minus -28 turns into 21 plus 28. And in this case, we get 49 as our final answer. All right, so for number 3, notice how there's a 7 on the outside here, but it's not directly connected to the parentheses how the previous two have been. What is directly connected to the parentheses is this negative sign here. When you distribute a negative, you're going to distribute it to the -2 and distribute it to the +11. Once you do that, these parentheses signs go away. So an easy way to remember how to do that is to imagine a 1 right here. So you have a negative 1 basically that you're distributing. So you leave your 7 out front and you say, all right, what's negative 1 times a negative 2? Well, that's going to give us positive 2. Now, what's negative 1 times negative 11, or excuse me, negative 1 times positive 11? Well, that gives us negative 11. So now your parentheses signs are gone, and all you have to do is order of operations. So you move from left to right, you add 7 and 2 to get 9. You rewrite the rest of the problem. We know 9 minus 11 gives us a negative 2. And you are done. So next we're simplifying. We're doing basically the same thing as up here, except we don't have distributive property down here. So we have a negative 5 plus negative 8 times 4. What do we do first? We do our multiplication. Negative 8 times 4 is a negative 32. Keep that in parentheses. We add to that our negative 5. Now, we know how to add two negative numbers. We just add them. We get 37. Since they're both negative, we throw that negative sign in front, and that's our final answer. Now, over here, notice we have some brackets on our hands. So we know we have to do that first. So we have negative 7 plus a negative 8. Negative 7 plus negative 8 is going to give us a negative 15. Now, these are inside our brackets. So from that, we just minus 3. Now remember, we can also make this a plus and this a negative 3. So it's the same situation. We have two negatives that we're adding. 15 plus 3 is 18. Since they're both negative, we get a negative 18. Over here, we're working with some exponents, so we know we have to do those first. Then we want to multiply. Then we want to add this 12 very last. So 3 cubed, remember, is 3 times 3 times 3. It's not just 3 times 3. So 3 times 3 is 9, times 3 is 27. We're going to multiply that by negative 2 squared. Now notice this just means negative 2 times negative 2. Well, we know that a negative times a negative is a positive, so we know that this is a positive 4. Once we've multiplied those two together, we're going to add to that a positive 12. So now we know we do multiplication next. We just did our exponents. Now we do multiplication. Last, we're going to add. 27 times 4 is going to give us 108 plus 12. We add those two together and we get 120. All done. All right. Now we're going to simplify with variables. So remember, simplifying up here, you're going to get a number as an answer. Simplifying down here, you're going to get a number and probably a variable of some kind and an answer. So what are my like terms here in number 7? What are my like terms? We have a negative 5n and we have a negative 4n. We also have a negative 12 and a positive 8. So we are combining our like terms. Negative 5 and negative 4n give us a negative 9n. Negative 12 and a positive 8 give us a positive, oh no they don't. No, they don't. Negative 12 and a positive 8 give us a negative 4. So our final answer for this one is going to be negative 9n minus 4. All right, number 8 over here. We have our 3 plus a negative 5h plus negative 9 minus negative 11h. So for this one, it's going to be a little bit different because we have a negative and a negative right here. So right away, we know we can change that to a big positive. Those two negatives cancel out. So what are my like terms? I have a negative 5h and I have a positive now 11h. My other two like terms are my numbers, and those numbers are negative 9 and 3. So 3 minus 9, or 3 plus a negative 9, is going to give us a negative 6. Now we want to combine our like terms with the variables. Negative h plus 11, or excuse me, negative 5h plus 11h is going to give us a positive 6h. So we have negative 6 plus 6h. Another way you could write this, and you might see, is 6h minus 6. The order of this could be switched around. These are the same thing though. They equal each other. So you're going to evaluate if a equals 3 and b equals negative 5. So again, we are taking notes. So I want you to write evaluate if a equals 3 and b equals negative 5. If I'm going too fast, you can always pause. So a equals 3 is going to go in for all of our a's in the next 3 problems. B equaling negative 5 is going to go in for all of our b's in the next 3 problems. So here we go. Number 9, we have negative 7 times a, which is 3, right here, a equals 3. We're going to add to that a negative 2 times b, which is negative 5. So here it's going to get really tricky. We got to really keep track of our negative signs. So negative 3, or excuse me, negative 7 times a positive 3 is going to give us a negative 21. We're going to add to that again, negative 2 times negative 5. This might look a little bit funny, but that's how you do the layered parentheses. So our next step is 5. So we have negative 21 plus negative 2 times negative 5 is going to give us a positive 10. Then we just add these. What's negative 21 plus a positive 10? Well, that's going to leave us with negative 11 as our final answer. Now, for 10, we're working with some exponents. Same thing, a, 3 goes in for a to the 3rd power. We're going to subtract from that. B, negative 5 goes in for b squared. So 3 to the 3rd power is going to give us 27. Remember, that's 3 times 3 times 3, not just 3 times 3, minus negative 5 squared. Now the next step we're going to do is find out what is negative 5 squared. Well, negative 5 squared, remember, is negative 5 times negative 5. And that's going to give us a positive 25, because a negative times a negative is a positive. So next thing we do is we decide, okay, what's 25, or excuse me, 27 minus 25? It's going to give us a positive 2. Okay, so our last one, we have a minus b squared. We put in, again, our 3 for a, back up here. We're going to minus from that b. Now b is negative 5, so don't get confused. Since there's already a negative sign here, you still have to put in b as negative 5, and again we have that double parenthesis and we need to square it. Order of operations says we still have to do grouping symbols first, so we got to do all this. Last thing we're going to do is square it up here. So 3 minus negative 5 turns into 3 plus a positive 5, and we're going to square that. 3 plus 5 is 8. We still got that squared sign. 8 squared we know is 8 times 8, not 8 times 2, and 8 times 8 is 64. So we are done. Again, if you didn't write any of these problems down, you need to go back and re-watch. You are just supposed to be doing this on binder paper and attaching it into your notable. So go back, make sure you pause in all the places you need, write all the problems, write all the work, and you'll be getting a worksheet similar to this.